Walk me home. Brayden saw the small figure of Chloe slink through a gap in the chain-link fence guarding the railroad tracks from hooligans like him. He pedaled harder to catch up to her. When he reached the fence, he dropped the borrowed bike and followed Chloe through the gap. "Chloe," Brayden called out. Chloe's dark head turned, and she flashed a coy smile. "Hi Brayden," Chloe greeted. "Where are you going?" "Home." "Can I walk you home?" "Sure." Brayden knew Chloe had a crush on him. He wished she'd just say it. He was 15 going on 16 and it would be uncool of him to make the first move, especially when the girl was Chloe. She was pretty but oblivious to that fact. She was sweet, and she was a goody two-shoes. He needed her to make the first move so it wouldn't seem as though he had been pining after her, though he had. They strolled side by side paralleling the railroad tracks. "Are you cold?" Brayden asked. Chloe shook her head. "What do you do besides bury your nose in a book?" Brayden teased. Chloe shrugged. It was only mid-October, but the first snowstorm had already come and gone, leaving behind 2 feet of snow. 3 days after the storm and the temperature had ascended into the mid-50s, melting the snow piled high on people's lawns. "I like to do a lot of things. Someday, I'm going to see all those places I've read about." "What about you, Bray?" Chloe asked. It was Brayden's turn to shrug. "One day, Brayden, I'm going to fly far, far away from this cold dark place. I'm going to see the world. Maybe I'll be a famous international correspondent and you'll be reading my stories," Chloe mused, more to herself than to him. Chloe hopped up onto a curb and snatched a low-hanging branch off a naked maple. She wielded it like a sword and pointed the tip at him. "Or maybe I'll be a pirate, sailing the world, looting ships, or falling in love with one of the king's men coming to take me prisoner," Chloe said, whipping her switch through the air. She did a little pirouette, then dismounted the curb and casting her maple branch aside. "You know what's funny, Brayden?" Chloe wondered aloud. "What, chicken butt?" "No," Chloe snickered. "As we are, you the cool older neighborhood boy and me the pesky neighborhood girl who longs for you to notice her, one day we're going to switch roles. When we're older, I'm going to be the cool one and you're going to long for me. What makes you think I won't stay cool forever?" Brayden asked. Chloe studied his face for a moment, her eyes narrowed as though she were peering far into his future. "Things change all the time, it's just nature. Can you promise me one thing?" Chloe contemplated aloud. "Maybe," Brayden seemed to be asking. "Don't drop out of school. Finish high school and then get out of this town. If you stay here, you'll never break the cycle of poverty." Brayden flinched at her words. They were words of someone older or someone with foresight, not the words of a 13-year-old girl. "Okay, I promise," Brayden said. Chloe's cherubic face broke into a broad smile, and she flicked the tip of his nose. "Thanks for walking me home," Chloe said. Brayden nodded before turning back the way he came. The walk back to his side of the tracks was filled with a strangeness he couldn't name. He felt butterflies in his stomach because he was surer than ever that Chloe liked him in return. He also felt the snaking of anxiety in the pit of his stomach, and he couldn't pinpoint why it was so. As Brayden reached the gap in the fence, he saw Chloe's best friend and his neighbor, Kat, sitting on her front porch with her father rocking her as if she were a baby again. Brayden slithered through the gap, picked up the stolen bike, and slowly walked up the street toward his house just across the street from Kat's. As he passed Kat and her dad, a strange unfamiliar feeling crept up his spine. "Hi Kat," Brayden called. Kat's head swiveled in response to her name. When her green eyes settled on Brayden, a fresh batch of tears spilled from her eyes. "What's wrong, Kat?" Brayden asked. Kat's dad stood to his full height of 6 feet 3 inches, and in one long stride he crossed the front porch and returned to his home to give his daughter a moment alone. Kat wiped her eyes and blew into a wad of tissue hidden in the kangaroo pouch of her gray hoodie. She sniffled, coughed, and then sniffled again before she could meet his eyes. "Chloe's mom just called. Chloe died this morning," Kat said. Brayden felt the color drain from his face and his limbs begin to crawl with nervous energy. "She can't be dead, Kat." "I just walked her home," Brayden protested. "What?" Kat asked. "You must have your days mixed up, Bray. You must be thinking of another day because Chloe has been dead for hours." Brayden turned in the direction of his house. His father had died when he was young, but his father was an adult. He was already a dad with a job. Chloe was only 13. She hadn't become anything yet. Brayden stepped into the darkness of his house and found his way to his room. He pressed play on his CD player and let whatever song he'd left off finish playing. She had been real. He could still smell the scent of her, a wild field of flowers in sunshine. He had felt her finger touch his nose. Her finger was that of a real girl, warm and soft because callus and time haven't yet weathered it. The song that followed was "Last Kiss" by Pearl Jam. It was a song that always made him think of Chloe because it was the promise of feeling something that tragic one day, though in his imagination they would have lived 2 full lives, even if he couldn't even imagine their faces as adults in their 20s, let alone when they were old in their 40s. Eddie Vedder's emotive voice crooned and somehow captured the exact feelings in his stomach. Before that moment, he hadn't fully comprehended what the emotion was, just that he knew he was possible of feeling it. It was grief, but not for the dead or the past, it was grief for all that could have been. Brayden buried his head between his knees and allowed himself to cry out of both grief and fear. If you enjoy this content, please hit like, comment, subscribe, and don't forget to share with someone who might enjoy this too.